Next up is Chris Noel with an esoteric monologue.
You always want to try to follow an adorable and talented child. I'd like to go to a restaurant called Stomach Murder. I wish somebody would go out underneath a dark, star-filled sky and look up at it and say not, "Oh, it makes me feel so small," or even, "Behold, I am infinite." I wish they'd say instead, "I just feel kind of mid-sized." I want to find a sofa store that folds out into a bed store. I'd also like to read the diary of a dried-out cicada husk. That's right, you heard me correctly, the diary of a cicada husk. And why? Because I bet every entry would read simply, "clung." Come to think of it, when you boil it down, that's essentially my diary, too. Although, instead of clinging to the side of a tree, I cling all night, each night, to my couch. Yes, I'll admit to you, I'm between relationships. But to buoy myself up, I prefer to say I'm among relationships. My innovative brand new restaurant closed down rather quickly, and I was really quite proud of it, though people said we tried too hard. When there'd be just a couple of bites left on the customer's plate, the waiter would rush over and reconstruct the original entree in miniature. I do get blue at times and anxious. I'll discover a deadly lump on one side of my body and immediately check the exact other side to make sure there's something similar. It's called bilaterality, folks. Get used to it. It's the hypochondriac's best friend. I mean, a party blower made of bile and blood could shoot out of my left side, and if one shot then out of my right side, so it must be a phase I'm going through. I began a short-lived 1-900 business. Future perfect subjunctive sex line. This is Kelly. Kelly. I was wondering, what were you to have been wearing? I go to restaurants and order out for things from home. Last time I ordered some of my area rugs, which I like a lot better than those rugs I used to have that covered only a single point. Area rug. There are times in our language where we're hardly more imaginative or sophisticated than the Neanderthal. Mouthwash, fireplace, high chair, underpants, tabletop, bus stop, toaster, eyeball, irritable bowel syndrome. Speaking of which, I would say that I enjoy comfort as much as the next fellow. But do I really require my toilet paper to be angel soft? I mean, if it's an otherworldly wipe we're after, I'd even settle for the texture of one of those flying monkeys from The Wizard of Oz. I came to realize that my life was stagnating a bit and that I needed to try something radically different. So I went to one of those small islands off the coast of Africa and learned that clicking language. Now, before you start thinking, hey, maybe I'll go over there and learn that clicking language like he did, there are a couple things I ought to warn you about. It's a wonderful, wonderful island. But first off, the people there call their language, they actually call it that clicking language. And they hate it when you laugh at that. Secondly, that coffee maker is for shit. And then there's always this one guy, we'll call him, he constantly goes around clicking in pig Latin just to fuck with your mind. You know, statistically speaking, it's more dangerous to drive than to fly. Yes, that's if you include among drivers drunks, 17-year-olds, and other maniacs. If we're talking about just the rest of us, it turns out to be much more dangerous to fly than to drive. Why, just go to any airplane crash site, and what do you find? That's right, mangled heap of excellent drivers. Could I please have your website address? And is that all one word? No, and thank God you thought to ask. That address is filled with spaces. In fact, some of the letters themselves have spaces within them. The body discovered in the woods was badly decomposed. Well, then it ought to be easy to identify. You know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Yes, there is. You're thinking of unicorn. Unicorn. So you're in prison, and you have only 2 weeks to go before you get out. But you've also had a job in prison. Do you have to give notice? I'm a big fan of the arbitrary, especially when you really embrace it, really commit to it. Do you ever scratch your face even when it doesn't itch? Just to show yourself who's boss around this joint. Or you'll be driving down in town and your dominion will take on a certain capricious quality. Well, go ahead, my child. Not you. So I thought to myself, as opposed to thinking to Roger, I thought I needed some more insurance. But I signed up with a specialty designer insurance company. The policies are kind of specific. If I break my collarbone, I get a camel. If anyone west of the Mississippi should defraud my cousin, I receive a small jar of honey. If I should lose my foot in a conveyor belt accident, I'm sent on an all-expenses-paid trip to the petrified forest outside of Baines, Nevada. And if I should plummet to my death, my next of kin are not telephoned, but they find on their walls the next morning a lovely, elaborate tapestry depicting a soothing tropical scene, and it'll take them hours of basking in that. Before they notice that the bright blue and orange snakes at the bottom left are in the shape of the words, "Chris fell off a cliff." When my time comes and I'm standing there before the firing squad, and also someone's holding a gun to my head and demanding that I divulge for the record what it is I'll miss most in this life, I plan to clam up. But then if I should also happen to discover a small lump right here and no corresponding lump over there, I might be persuaded to confess my one-word answer: bloopers. Just who can get enough of those, quite? Just so funny. All the different ways people find just totally mess up. Like I was traveling overseas one time and I tuned into one of the local blooper shows on TV. Check this out. So the line is supposed to be